Good morning, everybody. It is 11 o'clock and we are here on my live gardening clinic. And just while everybody starts to join, this is obviously going out on Restream, on my YouTube channel, on Facebook, and of course on Instagram and Twitter. Hello, Singer Mac. Very nice to see you and to wave to you as well. We'll just wait for a few more people to join because I did start that a little bit early. So here we are, people are all starting to come on board now, so that's really terrific. So good morning, everybody. It is Saturday and it is 11 o'clock and it's my live gardening clinic and you are all welcome. And I am again doing this on Restream, on YouTube, on Twitter, as well as Instagram Live. So I will be looking again up and down and all over the place at different cameras. But all I would say is that if you're having problems watching it on Twitter, then please come over to Instagram. It seems to be the more stable one and the clearer one as well. But anyway, you're all welcome. And we've got a lot again to get through this week. It was a really good one last week. Everyone had lots and lots of positive feedback, which is always lovely to hear. We are looking this week at Kel Parsley. We're also going to be looking at how to support young apple trees, climbing hydrangeas, how to grow Annabelle hydrangeas, and plants for a windy coastal garden. And of course, anything else that other people might be throwing at me. If we've got time, we'll squeeze it in. If not, we'll have to leave it until the next time. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mark Lane. I'm a TV presenter. I'm on Gardener's World. I'm on the RHS Flower Shows, and I'm also the gardening and plant expert on QVC. I'm also a published author, and my new book, Royal Gardens of the World, will be coming out in September of this year. And I'm also a gardening columnist for Platinum Magazine, as well as Waitrose Weekend. And what else do I do? Oh, I'm a garden designer. And I'm also an ambassador for many different charities. So there we go. That's a little bit about me for those of you that might be watching this a little bit later and thinking, who's that long-haired, bearded, hippie-type bloke in his 50s? Well, that's me. I have to quickly say, I mean, I really cannot wait for the hairdressers to open again. I know we've all been locked down for good reasons, but I really need my hair cut. But anyway, gardening, that's what we're here for. We're all here to talk about lovely gardening. So let's get on with the first question. So the first question is from Donna. And Donna asks, Kel Parsley has self-seeded and grown in the grass. I've mowed around it and a poppy. Can I transplant it to somewhere else? Can I take cuttings? Does it make seed? She would like more of it in front of her fence. Well, Kel Parsley, or Anthriscus sylvestris, or Queen Anne's lace, as it's otherwise known, is normally described as an annual or a biennial or a short-lived monocarpic or polycarpic perennial. Basically means it just will set seed quickly and then it would normally die off and then lots of new ones will come up. It's native in grassy places and in hedgerows and obviously on wood margins, and is abundant through most of Britain, actually. And it normally likes soil of around about 7, pH of 7, but it doesn't occur in waterlogged soils or sites susceptible to drought. So a little bit fuzzy, but obviously a gorgeous plant. And if you can grow it, then obviously it's a great one to do. From my experience, Kel Parsley doesn't transplant well at all. The reason for that is it actually produces a huge taproot, and the taproot normally goes down by about 2 meters. So it's a huge taproot. So you would have to take a lot of soil as well as all of that taproot in order to be able to transplant it somewhere else in the garden. The best way is really to produce it from seed. And Kel Parsley will flower from April to June. And of course, the flowers are pollinated by insects. And then the seeds, they mature in sort of late June to July time, as sort of dark seeds. And then they gradually fall off from about July to September. Now, some can persist on the spent flower stem during the winter time. And if I let you know that an average cow parsley plant will produce anywhere between 800 and 10,000 seeds per plant, that's a lot of seeds. So you could have a complete meadow and a complete woodland, or your whole of your garden completely covered in cow parsley. So you do need to be a little bit careful, because obviously it does self-seed. So you've obviously got many seeds that you can collect and sow in your own garden. The easiest way of doing it is obviously by getting a brown paper bag or a paper envelope, putting it over the flower head, over the seed head, then chopping the stem off with the flower head, turn it upside down, hang it upside down with that sort of bag sort of securely fastened so that all the seeds fall out into the bottom. And then that way you've got your seeds ready to sow. And you want to really sow directly in autumn because it needs that sort of cold. It needs it to germinate. So it will need that sort of wintry process to germinate come the springtime. And other than that, really, it requires very little care. It's easy to grow. It's great for shady, fertile soils. It performs best in full sun or partial shade. And of course, as I say, it will freely self-seed, and it's loved by bees, butterflies, and other pollinated insects. And of course, it looks gorgeous when it's sort of mingled all the way through other plants as well, because it's got that lovely, loose, open habit to it. If you want something that may be a little bit more permanent, you could try Anthriscus sylvestris ravenswing, which is cow parsley ravenswing at the end of the day. Now, it is biennial or a short-lived perennial, but it has the most beautiful purple-brown, sort of finely cut fern-like foliage, topped with these lovely umbels of white frothiness. And then they have these tiny little pink bracts as well by the flowers as well. So it's absolutely stunning. And it will flower from late spring to early summer, same sort of time as normal cow parsley. And it grows to about 1 meter in height and will spread to about 60 centimeters. And you can also grow this from seed. You can buy it as a plant, or you can grow it and collect your own seed. So, you know, cow parsley comes in all different sizes, really. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a natural occurrence when it's going to grow. And although a lot of the time it will get quite tall, sometimes you'll get little short ones that will pop up. If you want something that's a lot shorter and you love that cow parsley effect, you can go for something like Orlea, which is really, really lovely. It has these lovely sort of soft white umbels again, but it only gets to about sort of 30, 40 centimeters tall. It's not huge whatsoever. What I will stress though is that because you've got that potential of 800 to 10,000 seeds, you do need to keep check. You need to keep it in check because it can become a little bit of a thug because it will self-seed. So Donna, if you want more, you could just leave the one that you've got growing in your garden to set seed and then let that seed just go and scatter across your garden, and then it will pop up next spring because it will have that winter chill because it's outside. But I would say probably the best way of doing it is to actually plant your seeds into sort of individual cells or into those sort of little Jiffy 7s as they're called, and go for the coir ones, not the peat ones, and then just sow your seed into them and then place them in a cold frame, a cool greenhouse, a cold porchway, or even outside, sort of up against sort of somewhere a little bit sheltered, away from the sort of all the harsh winds and really heavy torrential rain. And then you can plant it out in the garden, and then that way you're sort of managing the number of plants that you're actually going to have, rather than sort of this huge number of them that will go all the way across your garden, and then before you know it, you'll be hacking back all your cow parsley because you've got nothing else. So hopefully that might sort of give you an idea. It's sort of just that sort of alternative way of looking at it, because obviously, as we know, it is a lovely native plant. It does self-seed, but you just need to be that little bit vigilant with it because it can just go like mad, especially if you have those 10,000 seeds. So there we are. That is lovely Kel Parsley, or Anthriscus sylvestris, or Queen Anne's lace, as it's called. We are now going to be looking from a question from Phil, and it's back to apples again. We seem to be doing a lot of apples, which is absolutely fine. It doesn't matter. And he says, this is a second-year discovery that is still very spindly and has a good number of apples developing. I can't believe that the branches can support the weight of the fully grown apples. Do I simply support the branches? Well, sometimes there we go. I'm live again on there. So let's go back to the beginning on this one. Apple tree, young apple tree, the young spindly branches be able to cope with the abundant, hopefully abundant fruit. So as I say, generally only your young tree will require some kind of support with their branches. And then, as I said, sort of in the last couple of weeks, you'll need to thin your fruit out early season to an amount that a healthy branch can support. Now, a young that it can produce. So therefore, you may need from you, the guy. And this is the case with Phil's discovery apple tree. He sent me a line by removing all of those dead disease damage, and then you want to have it will take all of your fruit, and then that way you use your healthy branches as possible. So help if your tree is young and is already producing sort of you need to give to the tree, because then you know that tree could balance on one side. So all you need to do with that is obviously to pole in the ground next to the trunk of the tree, being very careful damage systems. So it's always better from that point of view to put the stake in your apple tree. So whether that's in a pot, whether it's in the ground, always actually when you actually put your tree in. And then you then need to do the pole using some ties that will stretch and will grow at the point when you can really see that the tree's got a really nice strong trunk. You can take all the weight of the branches. And then really, if you remember as a kid, you did, but unfortunately we did at school for some bizarre reason. We learned and haven't done ever since. If you need a central pole, and then you tie the branches to it from above. Things to actually use for this is if you cut the legs of a pair of ties, and if you sort of hammer that into a tiny branch, do that sort of coming down each way from the middle, then you've got still movement within that sort of, because the nylon will actually, whatever they're made of, I have no idea. You know, they will move around, and that's what you want, because you want the tree to move, because by moving it actually strengthens the tree. So you can do that, which is really huge, that really needs supporting. Then you can create like a brush, and you can just simply do that with sort of wood with sort of one main stake, and then sort of create a nice V shape that the sit into. Now, what I would say with that is that obviously you need to keep checking that, and everything it start moving, and you don't want to rub against the wood of the. You can sort of cover the V also in nylon tights, and see, well, nylon tights are brilliant. You can use them for many things. You use them to pumpkins, you can use them to support melons, and here we go, using them on, and then you could tights, and then that's just giving it a little bit of cushioning, and just makes it easier. If I would say that probably a good branch, you want it to be about 40 to 60 degrees, the main central branch, which is the main trunk. You can get a branch that's about 40 to 60 degrees. That's a really healthy shape for a tree. And then after a few years, branches become thick and strong, and then therefore you don't need to support it. You go, Phil, a little. You could use the little crutch system, using some of your tights, or wise tights, or tights. Cut off the legs and use those to tie them together from the top of the pole down under the branches. Tie them to them. Still got that. So hopefully that will happen. I also had a query on apples from Julie Thompson. She sent me some photos of her patio apples. They've been specifically bred to have exactly each on your patio, so you can just pop outside, pick a lovely apple off the tree, and then eat it. You know, that here. But what they normally do, in order to get that sort of tree to not grow like a huge it, to a rootstock plant. A rootstock plant is actually different to the actual apple type that you have the variety have on the top. So on her photo, the question she's asking is of new shoots appearing down the trunk, and she's also got some new shoots appearing. So what I would just say with that is that if you've got anything that's growing from oil, it could be the rootstock, and if it's coming from the root, it may not even be an apple tree. It could be something completely different. So one central for a patio fruit tree. Cut it, and if you can sort of dig away a little bit at the soil, like a little dog, just sort of scrape it right back as low as you possibly can and cut it up. And then into the fruit. Your trunk, roots that are going to start appearing off it. And that's normal. Grew one in an orchard, for example, you get all these sort of branches coming off, and that's what you need to do. You actually need to just take them off. Normally, when not, very simple. If you don't want to do that, you can just take a pair of cutters and just snip them really closely to the main trunk, because otherwise all that's going to do is those new shoots. You don't want that. You want them to go into sort of your mulch. So that's what you need to do. You need to first of all remove that that's coming from the base, because as I say, it could rootstock, and then all the ones that are down your clear trunk, just take them off. You want to aim, I would say, you want to have a clear trunk of branches above that, and that will create your fruit. Eat well and you look after it, give it full sun, then it's going to be doing really well. I am getting some bad reception on everybody. If not, try and watch it on Twitter. Quickly, Instagram Live. Could you please tell me, just so that people know, and that way people can just come over and use it. Yes, it is clear on Instagram, so that's good. So for about 80 centimetre trunk, for the little growths that appear up the trunk, and that way you can see on your patio, pick your apple and eat it. Now I've got a lovely question here, which is sort of a two-parter, so I'm going to split it up in, and it's about hydrangeas. I love hydrangeas. But for me, I just love them, especially with all the new breeding that's happening. I really love the white types. But the question is from Jane, and she said that I gave some really good ideas for climbers last. She loves the white. It's a hot, shady area. And then the second is, how are Annabelle hydrangeas cared for? Are they easy to grow? Thank you. Okay, so let's deal with the hydrangeas first of all. So with the climbing hydrangeas, I really so last week, if you were, I mentioned a wonderful plant, Clarii, angel, which is this hydrangea, which grows to about 5 meters by 3 meters, and it's self-clinging. Wonderful lace cap like flower heads with a cockbrack, extra large. It really gorgeous. It really is a lovely one. Hydrangea. This will get quite large. This will get to about 10 meters by 3 meters, and it attaches to walls, fences, and trellis. So it's a brilliant one for doing that. Your roots, they sort of sucker almost to the walls. They have these wonderful leathery mid-green leaves and clusters of greenish cream flowers, especially if you sort of leave the flowers on there. Really stunning. Gethsemanii. Another one is hydrangea species Aris. I know these are all male, but this one gets even bigger. So this one will get 3 meters wide. Like these are thriving position. I find it's a little bit slower to establish the ones, but once it does, it's absolutely fine. Again, it will clear the little ones are completely to the Simanii, and they also have a really wonderful yellow colour in the autumn. So you're sort of getting a real different colours throughout the season with this one, and it's of showy, lacy white flower heads. So is which is a type of climbing hydrangea. It's only meters wide, so it's a little bit more manageable. Flower later, so it flowers has these clusters of tiny star-shaped with prominent stamens, and they're sort of botanical. You get like a lot of them in an arching sort of cluster altogether. It's slow to take off. It can take sometimes about 5 years to recover. Definitely worth it. As I say, on the side garage, and every year we have blue ticks that nest stenoides. It's absolutely gorgeous, and as I say, it's brilliant because it's that later flower. So you could mix them up. You sort of have hydrangea simmanii or hydrangea petiolus. Also have the viburnioides that are a bit less, to give you some flowers throughout a longer period throughout the year. Now, for those of you who are taking lovely, the schizophragma is SCZGMA wings. Then hydrangea simmanii, hydrangea, and then it's double N, double I, double E. The hydrangea petiolaris is PETIARI, and then the Paleostegia viburnioides is PIEOSTEG viburnioides, which is VIBROIDES, and that sort of gives a little bit of an indication as well. So it's viburnum, like the viburnum. You sort of, as I say, you get them in these lovely panicles, and it really is a lovely, really lovely climate. So so there we are, Jane. That's hopefully giving you ideas 1, 2, 3, 4 there for climbing hydrangea. Asked how to care for annual hydrangeas. Are they easy to grow and keep well? So with hydrangeas, annual hydrangeas, these are the ones that have really large white blooms. They're rounder, it will grow full speed. It's very, very thirsty plant. You imagine it's got to sort those huge flower heads, so it really needs to have and really fertile soil as well. And its proper name is Hydrangea arborescens annabelle. Are larger than others, and each flower head will get to about across, and it will get, the shrub itself will get to about 3 meters by 3 meters if you left it. You do need to protect the from late frosts, like you do with most hydrangeas, setting the older heads on, and they'll safeguard the frosts getting onto down vegetation, and it also, in order for it to grow well, there's a few things that you need. So first of all, house, it will light and the shade that it gets underneath the tree or close to the house, then it will grow there. Will endure sunny locations, as I say, but it must. It's brilliant growth plant for trees if you've got that rich soil. If you have midday heat, it should be avoided, purely because it will hinder the flower formation of the shrub, and it's a sheltered location. So in order to get those roots, because obviously you don't want wind to come along and bash the plant around, and then those go ahead to the ground. You should be given enough space, to plant it, because it can get to 3 meters by 3 meters. Those nutrient-rich, sort of really nice, loose soil, and then its stems will grow in sort of real humusy-rich, mineral. All of the soils that you sometimes find on forest floors are really rich because they have all that sort of leaf. Add that into the hole and around the plant, and it will really, really love that. Onto moisture, soil structure. It's really, really, really good watering, and rainwater is better. As soon as the soil is only lightly wet, then the plant can be watered again. So it just shows how much water this hydrangea needs water throughout this entire year, except obviously during the winter time when we have frost. So moreover, more than anything, you must keep that soil. I keep going on about it, but it is really, really important. Water deficiency and excess, you'll be able to see whether you're overwatering it, and that's a clear sign of water deficiency. Then to be watered immediately. So hydrangea, then it must have some leaves take on sort of then more often than not, then water. So then the soil has to be really loosened up, and you can just do that by gently digging around the, making sure not to damage the roots, obviously. Gently add some leaf mold if you can get it, add some compost if you've got it, add bort. These are hungry plants, really hungry plants, and you want these mass flowers. You can improve flowering with spring feed of low nitrogen feed, fertilizer. I use things like bloodfish and bone. I always find absolutely brilliant. Fertilize from the second year onwards, and then once a month feed again. So as I say, once a month, give it some feed, no nitrogen. Now, if you has lots, all you're ever going to end up with are these little tiny, well, not tiny, but you'll end up with soft shoots which won't be able to support the flowers. The flowers from apple green to white and then to brown, they are stunning. And of course, the wonderful thing about them is they don't change colour depending on the soil that you've got. They will stay white. So they're absolutely stunning from that point of view. So you don't want to put in really high nitrogen feeds, because all that's going to do is produce lots of greenery, lots of soft shoots, and then not going to support the frame. Now, you keep the following in mind also when pruning arborescens and about. It needs to be cut back close to completely year. All shoots past summer should be taken all the way back to tiny, tiny little stubs. Usually the plant is ends up at about 15 centimeters high after cutting. It seems drastic, but it's the best way of doing it. And if you can aim for 2 buds per little stump, then it's going to run away come the following spring and summer. And with proper pruning, it would encourage sturdy growth, which is important to support those large, heavy blooms. Now, they bloom on new growth, and therefore they can be pruned when they're dormant, which is sort of late winter. I would say of those, having, I think it's always a shame, those biscuity coloured during time, lovely, and of course they're perfect for flowering. So I would always say the pruning to early spring. You want to cut all the stems down low. You can cut it all down to about 30 to 45 meters from above the ground if you want to, and then prune half of them back to ground level. And then the older stems that are there, they'll actually help support the more slender stems as they're growing. Or, as I said, you can prune all of them right back to about 10-15 centimeters above soil. If I actually do that, you sort of end up with a plant that's a bit more floppy in flower. So I would say cut stems back to about 30 to 40 centimeters is really the best way to do it. And then from those little buds, as I say, you can have 2 buds per little stump. From buds, and then every shoot, from every old shoot or every bud, you'll get 2 new developing, which is why the hydrangea becomes really big as it ages. And if some branches grow a little bit too close and they could, then they should. You don't really want that. Additionally, stunted and unplumed shoots cut off during the spring and summertime as well. All they're going to do is take energy again away from the plant and the flowers. You don't want that. If you want to propagate it, remember it is a sterile plant, so cuttings are the only way you actually propagate it. So you can when you cut the plant, 1-year-old shoots are especially suited, as they are about 15 to 20 centimeters. The top is cut off, the cutting can be put into a pod. Don't be cold frame, they can somewhere else. And then you ensure that the substrate or the soil kept wet constantly without it waterlogging. And then after the cutting, and then they can be repotted into a pot, and then into a tub, and then into the garden the following spring. Now, of course, there are new hydrangea Annabelles out on the market. Some are pink, some are a little bit stocky, so they hold those well. A little bit of research, but they again. They won't be sure that you are going to be looking after your hydrangea Annabelle for years to come, and obviously produce those flower heads that you can cut. You can use them in vases, or just leave them in the garden in a lovely shady position, and they'll be absolutely wonderful. And of course, being white, if you go for the white ones, white is that last colour that you see as the sun goes down. So you'll see them like these sort of ghosts floating around in your garden. Really, really is a stunning plant. I can't sort of stress that enough. So I would say, Jane, it was Jane, wasn't it? Yep, Jane. There you go. Hopefully that's answered your queries on climbing hydrangeas, as well as how to care for hydrangea Annabelle. So last question. It is 22:12, and I normally do this for about 45 minutes. I don't think this last one will take very long. So this comes from Mary, and she says, I live near to the sea and we have salt-laden air and strong winds. Can you recommend easy to care for that will survive in our garden? Well, the good news, Mary, is that there are many plants that will give you colour, scent, texture, shape and interest for most of the year. So obviously, with being close to the sea, you are going to get those salt-laden winds. There's going to be a bit more buffeting going on as well with those poor little plants. So you want things that are quite strong, really good growers. But a lot of the plants that you grow in cottage gardens, you can also grow in coastal gardens. So, for example, Hylotelephium, or what used to be called sedums, is a really great one because it has those sort of real sort of succulent-like lush stems and leaves. And then if you go for something like Stardust, it's topped with these clusters of white flowers. It really is a good one to grow. You can grow something like Eryngium Borgatii, or the sea holly. There you go. The name tells you exactly where it can grow. And that has really beautiful steel blue flowers. It's absolutely stunning. If you can grow lavenders, but for me, I don't know what it is. I always seem to kill off lavenders. But I do love catmints or nepeta, or nepeta, however you want to say it. I say nepeta. I would always veer towards catmints, and a good one is Walker's Low, and it's brilliant for lining a pathway or dotted through a gravel garden or a coastal garden. It will work really, really well, and of course the cats will love it, I know. But it is a lovely plant, and it sends up these lovely sort of blue lavender-like flowers, but for much longer. So where lavenders will normally flower for maybe, July, August time, the nepeta will flower the ones in our garden will flower from May all the way through to September, even October sometimes. So they're really good doers. You could try scabious, so you could try Nautia macedonica, or the Macedonian scabious, and they have these lovely sort of really rich pincushion flowers that are held on really slender stems, so that every time the wind catches them, they just move back and forth. They're really, really gorgeous. You can grow astrantias. Again, they have a lovely sort of pincushion flowers. You could grow erigeron or fleabane, which are like pink and white daisies. You can grow potentillas. You can grow lavenders, as I say. You could even grow Shasta daisies, leucanthemum, are really great. Really large white daisies, really, really beautiful, really strong, really sturdy. For shrubs, I would say go for something like Hebes. So Hebe rachiensis is really, really good, or the shrubby Veronica. It has large white flowers and really lovely fresh green leaves, and it's also evergreen, so it's going to look great. It's tough, it's a sort of a rounded form, and it creates these sort of lovely neat hummocks that you can then sort of plant in between. And it's really good in a coastal garden. If you want to sort of protect yourself a little bit from all those salt-laden winds, then some kind of hedging would work really, really well. And you could use the good old laurel, which is Prunus lariceraceus rotundifolia. That's the one that has a really big glossy green leaves. Now it is a thallus, because it can get quite big. It can get 5 meters by 4 meters. So you would need to prune it and keep it in check. But it's a great shrub, and it's a dense shrub as well. And it's great for wildlife. The birds will actually nest in there. It also has some quite sweetly scented flowers, which are perfect for pollinators. So that's really, really, really good as well. You could even go for Forsythia. So you have those really wonderful yellow flowers much earlier on in the year. And a great one is Forsythia ex intermedia goldrausch, which is really lovely. It has buttery yellow flowers on bare branches. If you want red blooms, but for a shrub, then you could go for something like Cytisus. And a good one is Cytisus boskupii boskup ruby. And it flowers early in the summer, and it has these arching stems, and they're covered in ruby red pea-like flowers. So if you like the sweet peas, they have these lovely pea-like flowers. Really, really lovely. Only gets to about 1.2 by 1.2 meters. But it's brilliant as you can use that lovely as a hedge. You can even, if you love roses, I would go for sort of Rosa rugosa, or the species rose, and you go for either the white one, the auber, or the pinky red one, the rubra one. And they'll be really good for hedging. And of course they'll flower and they have hips. And they'll flower from July all the way through to September. So if you don't want, and of course they're brilliant for wildlife. So if you don't want that sort of real sort of green backdrop of the laurel, then you could go for something like a nice mixture of, say, the forsythia, the cytisus, and the Rosa rugosa. And that would be really lovely. That will give you interest throughout the whole year. Another great plant, which obviously its name sort of gives it away a little, is the sea kale, or Cranberry maritima. It's not the most, it's not the prettiest of looking plant down below, because it sort of has these grey-green cabbage-like leaves, but they do send up these sprays of tiny white flowers, which are really lovely, and it flowers for quite a long time. It's about sort of July, August, June, July, August time. But it's really good. And if you sort of plant other stuff around it, then you don't really see the leaves. But, you know, if you want that real sort of seaside feel, then it's a brilliant one, even just to dot amongst, say, a gravel garden, because it is the sea kale that will do absolutely brilliantly. You can also grow the sea lavender, Limonium. Now, there's a new one that's on the market, which is called Dazzle Rocks, and it's an absolute stunner. It will flower from June to September, and it's the first fully hardy Limonium. So unlike others, which will sort of don't last very long, this is fully hardy, flowers from June to September, and is covered in lavender coloured flowers on silvery green foliage. It's absolutely beautiful. It's otherwise known as statice, so you can use them as dried flowers, but it's also known as a sea lavender. So therefore, two plants, sea kale, sea lavender, the name sort of gives it away where you can grow them, really. And then finally, for climbers, I would say honeysuckles are probably one of your best bet. So go for something like Lonicera X Telmaniana, which has these really rich yellowy orange flowers and a really lovely scent. Or you could try Lonicera japonica halliana. That starts in April time and has sort of white and yellow flowers, and again a really lovely scent. Or if you want something to flower during the winter time, you could go for the winter honeysuckle, which is Lonicera fragrantissima, which flowers sort of December, January, March time, with these fragrant, creamy white flowers. It will get to about 2 meters by 3 meters. So during the summertime, it's not much. It's sort of a green shrub, but you're really growing it for that winter interest. And again, will do brilliantly in a coastal, windy location. So hopefully, Mary, that's given you some food for thought. So that's actually it for today. We've sort of got through quite a lot. Oh, actually, I've got a question here from Jerry. Jerry is saying, why are my cucumber leaves turning yellow? Depends at what stage yours are actually at, Jerry. It could be a sign, a bit like the hydrangeas, it could be a sign that they're not getting enough water, or that the water hasn't been done in a systematic way. So it's been sort of, you may have sort of missed out on the watering, and the plant's gone into a bit of shock. So it could be that. It could be feed. It could need a really good feed. Cucumbers, you know, although there's mainly water, you know, they're about 90% water cucumbers, if not more. You know, all the energy is going into producing those cucumbers. So sometimes the leaves do turn yellow. You can just take them off, but I would give it a really good feed. Something like a really good sort of like tomato feed would be absolutely fine. Do that sort of every couple of weeks, if not once a week. And then see if your leaves perk up again. If it's a really young plant, then it could be that it's, depending where you're growing them, if you're growing them outside, you're growing them inside. If you're growing them inside, it could be simply that they've got too hot, and therefore that you need to sort of open or ventilate a little bit more. And again, watering would be essential from that point of view. It could be that again, from that sort of young age, if they need that sort of that lovely, they need all those nutrients. So again, a really good feed will help. So hopefully, Jerry, that will help. I can't obviously see what your yellowing leaves look like, how big your plant is. I would say pick them off, give it a good feed, and see what happens. So there we are, everybody. I'm sorry about that. So iPlantsman says, "Hi Mark, sorry I'm late." Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. We're right at the end. It's 10 to 12. I've been waffling on for 50 odd minutes. Just as a recap for everybody, we've looked at cow parsley today. We've looked at supporting young apple tree branches. We've looked at climbing hydrangeas, how to look and grow Annabelle hydrangeas, as well as plants for a windy coastal garden. So there we are, everybody. Thank you once again. The live clinic will be back next Saturday at 11 o'clock. Please like, please share, please tell your friends. The more shares and likes I get, the more it's actually picked up by people and picked up by social media as well. So please tell everybody. Have a lovely weekend, everybody, and happy gardening, and goodbye.